All right. Hopefully this is working. This is the first time I've really tried something like this. But it's the last day of Getting Unstuck, which has been 10 amazing days of working on Scratch projects and getting to know other people, other teachers and educators that are working on similar things, and having a chance to really learn a little more about Scratch. I've learned a bunch of stuff about it that I didn't know before. It's been 10 days of one project each day, and today's the last day. So I figured I'd take some time today and work on this project now. So let's get started. This was the project that was my inspiration for some of the thinking this morning. So the prompt for today is come up with a project that uses a block that you want to learn something more about, some Scratch block that you want to learn something more about. And Karen Brennan, who's one of the co-hosts of this whole event, which has been absolutely amazing, put together this project with this flower. And some letters that animate as well. And in one of the comments on her reflections for this project, she was talking about trying to figure out how to draw the flowers instead of just having the flower appear. So I spent some time this morning thinking about how could you get the flowers to draw instead of just appear. And where that took me was this remix for the project, which I'll go to now. It's taking some time to load. And in this remix, the idea is that the flower starts to draw itself. And what I had to do was download the image of the flower, do a little bit of image editing in order to trace the path of what the flower looked like. And then once you have a path in like a vector graphic format, you can start to animate that path. And so this morning I was taking a look at that and experimenting with animating the path. And Pinky Pepper in the comments on this project suggested that you could use Scratch to record the XY coordinates as you're drawing something on the Scratch screen. So this is what I think I want to do for my Day 10 project, which is try and create a project where you can draw something onto the Scratch stage and Scratch can record the coordinates as you're drawing so it can play it back to you. I've wanted to get some more practice with the pen tool and think this might be a nice opportunity to do so. And if you're listening and following along, I would love to hear from you. If you want to say hello in the chat, I'm keeping an eye on that too. But let's give this a try. So we're going to try and create a drawing program in Scratch that tracks you as you draw and is able to keep track of X and Y coordinates. So I'm going to create a new project. It's creating. And all right, here we go. I think I don't want the Scratch sprite to begin with. But I do want to use the pen tool in order to be able to track as I draw. So I'm just going to create, I think the best way to do this is create an empty sprite, a sprite that just doesn't look like anything. And from there, you can then start to draw using that sprite. So let me give this a try. I've used the pen tool once before earlier for one of these projects for Getting Unstuck, but I don't have a lot of experience with it. But I think let's do when this sprite is clicked, well, actually, let's do it when the green flag starts. I want to just forever be checking to see if the mouse is down. So I want to do a forever loop, which is just going to constantly be checking. And I'll say if the mouse is down, then I want to do something like use the pen, draw something there. So I'm thinking if I'll go to sensing and say if the mouse is down, then I want to use the pen tool in order to draw something. Hi, Andrew and Paulina. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for saying hello. This is my first time trying this, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But it's good to hear from you both. And thank you, Andrew, for your streams last week. That was really the inspiration for me trying to think about how I might do something similar to share some of these processes. And Paulina, thank you for everything you've been doing for Getting Unstuck these last couple weeks. It's been so much fun, and I've had such a good time. And I'll be sad once this is over, but looking forward to working on this last project. All right, so if the mouse is down, now I want to use the pen tool, I think. So I'm going to go add the pen, and let's put the pen down. And I think I need to first go to the right position. Go to mouse cursor, is that an option? Yeah, mouse pointer. So I think now if I run this, yeah, now this is kind of drawing the way that I would expect it to be. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me okay. Wonderful. For people who are just getting here, I guess, what I'm trying to do is create a program that was inspired by a remix I did of Karen Brennan's project earlier this morning. But the goal is to try and draw something onto the stage, have Scratch record the XY coordinates of everything that I'm drawing, and then eventually, I hope, be able to like play that back to me so it can replay my drawing for me at the end. So that's the goal. We'll see how this works. So far, I'm just trying to get it to... Okay, that's not good. Oh, I see. When the mouse goes up, I guess, I want to lift the pen because otherwise I'm going to get these straight lines that are connecting me every time that I try to draw a new line. So let me replace the if statement with an if and else. So if the mouse is down, then I want to go to the mouse pointer and put the pen down. Otherwise, I want to move the pen up. And so I'll go into pen and pen up. Hi, Karen. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you liked the remix. I thought your project was really great today, and the flower was beautiful. I was wondering where you got that image from, actually. But in the remix, I tried a very convoluted method of trying to recreate the drawing effect. And in the comments for that project is really the inspiration for what I'm trying to experiment with now, which is Pinky Pepper. I don't know his or her actual name, but in the comments suggested something about trying to record the coordinates as you draw, and that is what I am attempting to do now, but we'll see how well it's actually working. Ryan, I'm glad you enjoyed CS50 and the walkthroughs. Thank you for joining here now. iStock photo for the flower image. It was a great image. Although the interesting thing about the image, let me tell you something, take you down a bit of a rabbit hole about my adventure with the image. So this is the flower image. And originally my hope was that this would be an easy flower that I could just trace and then have it animate the process of creating the flower. But the problem is it's not really a single stroke that you can just animate the path of, because the stroke is actually off. And if I turn the stroke up a little bit, give it some width, and then turn off the fill, you'll see what this flower actually is, which is the flower is really just this sort of loop where it's been filled in on the inside in order to create the look of the flower. And so that didn't work for trying to animate it, because for it to animate, it needs to be a single smooth curve that you can then create. But because it's actually this double curve that's been filled in with an invisible border, that made it difficult to animate. So what I had to do was go in and trace the flower, and I've sort of recreated all of the individual points. It's not nearly as precise or smooth looking as the original flower. I don't know exactly how they did that. But this was my attempt to recreate that flower now, and someone in the comments of my project very helpfully suggested there's probably an easier way to do it. So that is what I'm in the midst of exploring now. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but I am excited to find out. So back to here. Let's go ahead and give this a try, restart it. Oh, it occurs to me, I don't know if this is the behavior I would expect, but when you restart a project with the pen and the pen's been drawing, the pen stays there. So you have to remember to erase all first when the program begins in order for anything to show up the way you might expect it to. So let's go ahead and run that. Now I'm going to try drawing. That seems okay. Now let's try again, drawing. That seems okay too. Okay. This seems pretty reasonable. So now what I want to do is like keep track of these x and y coordinates somehow, and then use those x and y coordinates to be able to recreate the drawing. Oh, you were on the Zoom call with about the AI class. Sure, I'm happy to answer any questions about the class if you have any. At the moment, I might be somewhat distracted by trying to work on the project, but I would love to hear a little bit more. Okay, so this is drawing now, and now what I want to do is start tracking the x and y coordinates. I don't think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can have a list where each element is storing both the x and the y coordinate at the same time. I think the cleanest way to do this is to create one list for all the x coordinates, and then another list for all the y coordinates. So let's give that a try. Maybe there's a better way. If you want to suggest a better way, feel free to post something into the chat. So let's make a new list. I'll call it x's, just for x's. and I'll make a new list called y's. And I don't want to show these lists, but maybe I'll show them later. And at the very beginning, I want to delete all of x's and I want to delete all of y's. That way we refresh both the lists the first time that we start anything. Oh, Andrew's apparently done something like this before in these two lists. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking of was to like store x comma y as just like a single text inside of the list, and then to try and split that element apart anytime I wanted to access it. And I'm sure it's possible to split apart like a string in Scratch on the comma, but that just seemed like more work and more hassle than it was worth. So I don't think that's the cleanest way to do it. Okay, looks like people think that two lists is a good approach. So we'll try it. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is my second project ever with the pen tool, so I don't have a ton of experience with this, but we'll give it a shot. So when the pen goes down, I want to add the x position to the x list and the y position to the y list. So let's get, I think there's a block for x and y position. Yeah, x position, y position. Let me show the lists just to see what's in them and make this bigger and give this a try. So I'm going to try drawing, and okay, these lists populate fast because of the forever loop, I imagine. But they are different, so maybe all the values are important. I wonder if there's a maximum length for a Scratch list. There must be. Actually, maybe I looked this up at one point. I think it's something like 200,000 elements in a Scratch list you can have. I could be wrong about that. But for some reason, the number 200,000 jumped into my mind as something to keep track of. Oh, one list with alternating x and y is a good idea too. I hadn't thought about that. The other thing I'm a little concerned about, well, we'll see how this works in a moment. What I want to do now is create a button to play back what's been done. So let's do that. Let's create a button to try and play back the creation. Yeah, is it 20,000 or is it 200,000? I feel like one or the other might be. Okay, 200,000 is what I had thought too. Hopefully we don't hit 200,000. I feel like the Scratch stage is small enough that you won't hit 200,000. Like right now we're only at, let's try this actually. I'm going to time this for 5 seconds of drawing. Sorry, here we go. And here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so with 5 seconds of drawing, it's at 180 now, but there were 40-ish before. So it's like 140 values that were added. And so in order to get to 200,000, I would need to draw continuously for 5,000 seconds, I think, if I did the math right. I could be doing that wrong. But that seems like more than enough. So I think that we're not going to run over the limit there. Hopefully, we're not going to run over the limit there. So let's play it back. So I need a button. Let's draw a new sprite that's going to like play back. I want like a green play button, like what you'd see on like a tape recorder or something. So I'll create a rectangle. I'll fill it green. And I don't want it to have an outline. Maybe I do. Let's give it a bigger outline. And now I want a triangle. Does Scratch not have triangles? I see circle, I see rectangle. I wanted like a triangular play button was what I was going for there. But maybe there is no triangle. Maybe I just have to create lines. I can recreate it this way. But it seems like there should be a better way to do this by actually creating a triangle. Let's do another line. And one more line. Okay, there's our approximation of a play button. That seems okay. Can I fill this? Did I really create a shape, or is it just a line? Oh, you can fill it. That's nice. All right, so I guess you just have to manually create. Oh, someone suggested you can use the vector editor to delete a point of a rectangle. That's interesting. I do some of that with like 3D modeling, where you create like a whole bunch of vertices, and then you can delete a vertice to create a different shape. That's good to know. But okay, I think this will work. Let's resize it down a little bit. I'll put the play button down here, make it a little smaller. And when the play button is clicked, what I want to happen is I want the screen to wipe away, and then I want to recreate the x and the y points. So that's going to be the goal. So let's go to the code. When the green flag is clicked, no, when this sprite is clicked, I want to stop the drawing. So I'll call this sprite like draw or something. And I want to stop the drawing sprite. So when the sprite is clicked, I'm going to broadcast stop drawing. Hi to everyone who's just joined, by the way. I'm working on Getting Unstuck, which has been 10 amazing days of Scratch projects. And feel free to say hello. I'm really enjoying seeing what everyone's saying here in the chat. This is my second time using the pen tool. First time doing a YouTube stream like this with the setup. And so hopefully it's interesting. And I've really enjoyed getting to see all of your projects over the course of Getting Unstuck. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. All right, so when I broadcast stop drawing, I want this forever loop to stop because I need some way to get out of that loop. So when I receive stop drawing, let's go ahead and just stop other scripts in the sprite. So I think that'll make it such that I start drawing, I press the green flag, or the green play button, and now drawing doesn't work. Great, that's what I want. Let's hide these lists. I'm going to rename draw to record because I'm going to create a new sprite to do the drawing. Oh, there's a stop other scripts. I have never used stop other scripts. I'm learning something new. Thank you, Andrew. Let me try that. Where is it? I bet it's in events or control. Stop other scripts in sprite. Is there a way to stop other sprites? Like, can I tell the other sprite to stop? Maybe not. Maybe I have to do the broadcast. I was hoping there was a way to do it without the broadcast, but maybe this is the best way. So I broadcast stop drawing. Or actually, I guess I can do the drawing in this one too. So what I'll do is, now I want to loop over the list and start basically plotting those points. So the first thing I want to do is erase everything that was previously on the stage. And now I just need to loop over each of the items in the list. So broadcast and stop. There's a broadcast and stop. That's also news to me. I haven't used a whole lot of broadcasting either, but that's interesting. I need to look for that. I see broadcast and wait. There was a great project earlier in Getting Unstuck where someone explained the difference between broadcast and wait and just broadcast. I usually have mostly had occasion just to use broadcast and not broadcast and wait. But maybe it's okay here. All right, so I need to loop through this list. And so, oh, a global variable is another good way to do it. I didn't think of using a global variable that's shared across the sprites. I like that too. I don't know which way is the cleaner design. I think both are probably pretty reasonable. All right, so I need the length of the x's list. Hopefully, if all goes well, x's and y's should be the same list. So I should just be able to get the length of one to repeat over the other. And what is the best way to iterate over? Like, Scratch doesn't have a for each, but I can access like an item number. So I'm thinking if we just keep an incrementing counter, I can access item 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And in doing so, I think Scratch starts counting lists from 1 and not 0. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. So I don't want to loop forever, actually. I want to repeat a certain number of times. I want to repeat as many times as there are values in the x's list. And how should we go about doing this? Yeah, globals are horrible in general. Yeah, in like regular programming languages, you're often advised not to use global variables just because they can create messiness, and you're not having pure functions if they're modifying external state. I took a class and taught a class about functional programming for a time, and that was something we always hammered home. But in Scratch, I tend to not always follow that design principle and use global variables quite a lot. So I guess there are trade-offs. All right, so let's create a variable to keep track of my index. I don't really like, personally, that Scratch creates a my variable by default. Maybe there's good reason for it. Maybe just so they can show you what the variable blocks are. But they give you a variable but not a list, so I don't know, there's some inconsistency there, but I'll rename it to index. And we'll start by setting index to 0, and then immediately change index by 1 inside the loop. And so now I can get the x and y position if I go to x and y, and the x and y positions I want are in the list. So they're one of the items from the x list and one of the items from the y list. And the item I want is the index. So we're going to go there, and we're going to put the pen down. I'm thinking, should I put the pen down at the beginning, before the loop, or let's try putting the pen down inside the loop and never bringing the pen up until the end of the loop. I don't know what that'll look like. Let's try it. Pen down, then at the very end, pen up. Andrew thinks it's just to show that the variable's an option. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Context for this is that for one of the classes that I work with, CS50, we used to try to check if a variable is used in a project, and now by default there is always a variable that's in the project, though I guess you could check to see if it's actually used. All right, let's try this. Let's see if it actually works. We're going to just draw a curve like this, and then press play and see what happens. Okay, not quite what I wanted, but pretty close actually. I'm obviously putting the pen down too early. I need to move to the point first and then put the pen down. Or at minimum, put the pen up first. So pen up here, then put the pen down, then put pen up at the end. Let's try that. So we're going to draw the curve and play it back. So this is interesting. It's jumping to the green flag, or to the green play button. And what's the reason for... Oh, okay. So I know the bug. I don't know how to fix it. But when I click on the green flag, or on the green play button, I keep meaning to say play button, not the flag, but when I click the green play button, Scratch is drawing a point there, but then it's as a result drawing a continuous line that's connecting me to the play button because it's one of the points in the X and Y list, because it draws that point before I stop the actual drawing process. That was probably not the best explanation. But I think that also means that it's going to break for multiple lines, that if I draw one curve and then I draw a second curve and now I try to play that back, it's going to connect, it's going to connect the first curve to the second curve, and then it's going to hit the last point. So I think, and yeah, actually Andrew suggested this as well, there are two things I need to fix here. One is this last point. The other is fixing these lines. But let me fix the last point issue first. Hopefully it's just being recorded as a single point. Though I imagine if I'm holding it down long enough, it might be recording a different point. Because like if I hold it down on the plate, well, let's try it. Let's, instead of going to the length of x's, let's go to length of x's minus 1. So hopefully if it's only one extra point at the very end, hopefully this accounts for it. But I'm doubtful this is going to work well. We'll see. So you draw the curve, you press the play button. Okay, and that works. But if I were to accidentally draw the curve and hold for slightly longer on the play button, actually that works too. Maybe, I feel like there's a Wraith condition here where this won't always work, that if the pen is able to add a couple things to the list before the broadcast happens, you might end up getting an extra point that's not supposed to be there. It feels dangerous to me, but maybe Scratch is doing the synchronous calculations well enough that that's not a problem. So maybe we're still okay here. All right. The next thing to fix is the connecting of these lines. When I draw two distinct lines, I want to separate them. And this is an interesting question. So if you just keep an X's and Y's list, there's no way Scratch could know that there's a discontinuity between one line and the next one. So two thoughts that came to my mind. First thought is the one that Andrew just put in the chat as well, which is that if the distance between 2 points is large, that's a discontinuity. The other thought I had in mind is to add like a null value when the pen goes up. So both I think could work. Let's do the distance version. My original thought is like, okay, when the pen lifts off, you would add null to the list, and the null would indicate that's a discontinuity and a break. And I think that would work all right. But the distance I feel like is a little cleaner. That if the distance is more than, say, 5 pixels, then I don't know what the right number is. There's some threshold. Then you can do it. The other approach is to literally, actually, let's try this first. This is the easiest thing to do. Just bring the pen up after you put the pen down, kind of like a stamp. Or I guess you could just use stamp. Let's try that. So we're moving, and we're doing it again. And now let's play it back. Okay, so that's not ideal because I don't even know if you can see that, but Scratch is not recording every point along the journey. The forever loop has some latency here where it's recording every some number of points. So you do need the continuity between the points in order to get the curve to look right. All right, so maybe, yeah, if you're lifting off for a short distance, it's true that the distance thing won't work. So, all right, I'm going to try the null approach. I think I've decided I'm going to try the null approach. I don't know how well this is going to work, but let's give it a shot. So when the pen goes up, let's add null. But I only want to add null once is the problem. I want to add once when the pen goes up, and that's it. And I don't want to add null again until the pen goes down again. So I think I need some state, some variable that's going to keep track of this for me. So I'm going to add a variable. I'll call it pen down. And initially, I'm going to set pen down to 0. And when the mouse goes down, pen down gets set to 1. And let me move this script away just so I have a little more space to work with. All right, so pen down gets set to 1 when the mouse goes down. And now when the pen goes up, if, I want an if statement here. If pen down is equal to 1, variable if pen down is equal to 1, if the pen is down, then I want to set pen down to 0. But I also want to add null to x's and y's. So I'm going to add null, which is just text. It's not really a null value in Scratch, but I think I should be able to check for null in x's and y's and use that as my signal. So I'm pretty sure that now, if I go ahead and show these lists and try drawing, somewhere in this list, yeah, exactly what I wanted. It's point 17. Right in between the two discontinuous sections of the drawing, there's a null value now, and I can check for that null value and do something with that later. Bye, Andrew. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated, and thanks for watching. And I really enjoyed yours as well. All right. Let's now deal with null. So now we have null in the list, and now I want to do something with null. And importantly, what I want to do is if the value is null, I don't want this in the if statement. Let's do an equals. If the index item is null, then I want to lift the pen up. So my logic, I think, is get the x element. If the x element is null, lift the pen up, and then go to the new, oh, but you don't want to go, you don't want to put the pen down at null, because we're going to get an error when we go to that particular xy position. So this needs to be an if-else and not just an if. Reason being, I don't want to like try to go to null and null. I don't even know what Scratch would do in that case, but it's probably not good. So let's put this in an if-else. If the pen goes up. If anyone knows a faster way to create an if-else other than copying everything from the if, that would be great. but all right. Here we go. Um, Thank you for joining, and good night. Yeah, thanks. All right, so we are checking the item in the list, and if it's null, meaning it's a discontinuous break between two sections of the drawing, I lift the pen up. If it's not null, meaning I do want to draw it, then we go to that point, then we put the pen down. So let's try it. I draw one curve, I draw a second curve, and now I play it back, and it draws the first curve, and it draws the second curve. Actually, that worked out remarkably better than I thought. Let's try it with more than two curves, just to be absolutely sure. So I'll draw like a square, and a circle, and a triangle, and a diamond-like shape, and let's play that. All right, that seems to be basically what I was going for. What else could I add here? I don't like that there seems to be just some like jitteriness in terms of these lines. Maybe they're too thin. I'm thinking that if you make the pen width greater, that might help. So I think I can set the pen size. Yeah, set the pen size to, let's set it to like 10. Is that too big? I have no idea. Let's try it. And play it back. That's not bad. Maybe a little thinner. Let's go with 5. And play it back. All right. This seems to do sort of what I thought that it was going to do, and it's been a good practice with the with this tool. I guess the other thing I wanted to do then is, rather than force you to click the green flag, I have a play button. I kind of also want like a red record button, so you can record, then play, then record and play, and something like that. If I play again, does it still work? Yeah, so I can play the same thing multiple times, which is nice. So let's duplicate the record sprite, or the play sprite rather, and call it record. So we'll call this record. Go into these costumes. I'm going to change the fill color to red, and change this triangle to a circle. That was not a perfect circle. Do I have to hold down shift or something? Yeah, holding down shifts gives you a perfect circle. And let's fill that with maybe a lighter, something like that. That's pretty good. And then we'll line this up, red record there, green play there. I'm very particular, so I want to make sure the y coordinate is the same. It's negative 134 here, and it's negative 134 there. Oh no, it's negative 133 here, so we'll change it to minus 134, and now they're lined up. Okay, so when this sprite is clicked, I want to broadcast record. I guess I didn't have to delete the broadcast in order to do that. But now in the drawer, rather than when the green flag is clicked, I want to do this when the record button is pressed. And when the green flag is clicked, we'll go ahead and just broadcast record anyway, so there's multiple ways to start this. So now I think you press record, you get to draw. I'll make this bigger. You get to draw. You can play it back. You can play it back multiple times if you want. And if I want something new, I go to record, and I record some new drawing, and then I play that back. All right, this seems pretty good, and this is sort of what I was expecting to do. I was expecting it to be more challenging this. So thank you to Pinky Pepper, who's probably not watching, but was in the comments for my remix of Karen's original project, for suggesting this idea, because it worked out wonderfully well and actually ended up being quite a bit simpler than I thought. So I will go ahead and name this. We'll call it Record Your Drawing. Getting Unstuck, Day 10. And let's see the project page. And I will share it. I'm not going to add it to the studios yet, because I'm going to add some notes and credits and reflections that I won't like sit here and write while people watch me write, because I think it was more interesting to be creating the project. But yeah, if people have suggestions for what to add to this, feel free to remix this or suggest it. But I had fun learning more about the pen tool. I enjoyed talking to all of you throughout this process. And for those of you who are participating in Getting Unstuck, I'm really hoping to see you tomorrow at the Getting Unstuck Share-a-thon. It was a lot of fun last week, and I'm looking forward to it again this coming week. So thank you to everyone who's been watching, and this was a lot of fun. So thanks so much. Hope to talk to you all more soon, and have a good night or good morning or whatever time it is where you are, and talk to you soon. Thanks everyone. Thank you so much.